We have new episodes dropping every other week. You can find them early on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, or wherever you find your podcasts, or find the link below for our Megaphone landing page, and we will see you around the campfire. Hey, it's Paul.
Hey, it's Jess.
Welcome to Campfire Ashes. Now pull up a log. Let me tell you a story. Leah rolled her eyes as her parents shuffled her onto the ferry. Her dad was a history buff, and it was that time for their yearly trip to Fort Delaware. Sitting in the middle of the river, it was either sticky with unbearable humidity or bitter cold. Today was a bright sunny day without any hint of moisture. At least she had something going on for her today. She was 16. She was allowed to do her own things on the island without her parents tied to her this time. She could get lost, pay attention to the few things that caught her eye. She beelined for the prison camp trail and the bird preserve. She sat on the bench watching the egrets and the heron as they tended to their nests in the marsh. It was her favorite part of the island, and finally, she didn't have to shuffle into the barracks with her dad. She pretended her dad was pulling her away. She slumped her shoulders and just started to stomp away, and she giggled and flopped onto the bench, kicking her feet in joy, and she heard a crunch. She tilted her feet to the side to see what she stepped on, and it was a ball of sticks and straws woven in a very tight pattern on the boardwalk, and that was flattened. If you tilted your head the right way, it looked kind of like an upside-down bird's nest or an igloo. And then she quickly picked through it and pulled it apart to make sure it wasn't a nest and she had crushed in the eggs. It was tightly bound and surprisingly hard to pull apart. And then she noticed a movement out of the corner of her eyes, and she saw a similar ball of straw fall off the pier. And she got up and looked over the railing to see what had tumbled off. It was nothing but matted patches of straw and bulrush reeds, and she shrugged and flopped back down on the bench. She winced in pain and jumped up. She arched up and looked at her thigh to see two thick reeds buried a few inches into her leg. She grimaced as she pulled them out, and she looked down to see several more reeds sticking through the slats of the wood. The two from her leg felt much firmer than the usual bulrush reeds that looked like they were native to the marshes. She pulled out a few napkins from her purse and blotted away the blood and held it in place while she carefully sat down with her eyes on the reeds. And she winced again and shot up, and had another reed sticking out of her shorts stuck into her other leg. She looked down, and now a bunch of the reeds were sticking out from the other side of the bench. She clenched her teeth and tugged hard. This one was deeper than the others, and the reeds seemed more pointed. The wind was pushing a lot of the straw around the boardwalks, and the bulrushes were starting to kind of beat along the railings of the pier. And the whole thing made her feel very uneasy, and she decided to catch up with her parents. The walk back felt eerie. She heard skittering all around her, and the wind rustled around her, making the reeds brush against the pier even louder. Her dad eagerly waved at Leah as he posed with a Civil War reenactor, with her mom taking the picture. As corny as it was, compared to the trail, this felt warm and familiar, and she leaned against the moss-covered walls and watched her father run around like a kid at Disney World, interacting with the reenactors. She was lost in her thoughts till she felt something wriggling beneath her, and she jumped around, expecting to see like a massive grub or a beetle. Instead, there was nothing. She leaned in a little more, confident that there were no bugs in the wall. But another sharpened reed looked like it was pushed through the cracks of the brick. The moss started writhing. Another reed pierced through the moss. This time it shot out of the wall and into her cheek, nearly missing her eye. She yanked it out, and with one eye covered, she saw the moss seeming to come to life. She ran for the courtyard and up the steps up to the parapet and the cannons. She could see small reeds poking out of the ivy and moss along the way. Some of them flopped out of the green, others shot out, barely missing her as she ran. And then she felt something trip her feet, sending her tumbling up the stairs. Her hands managed to grip the steps to keep from falling all the way down the stone flights. She crawled up the steps, still in a panic. As her eye level reached the landing, another patch of moss ripped clear of the steps, flinging sand into her eyes. She fell to the ground, clawing at her eyes. Leah cleared the sand from her eyes in time to see several tufts of grass around the cannon mounts lift again like a trapdoor. Two gnome-like creatures, wrapped in discolored gauze and porcupine quills along their backs, rose up with sharpened reeds. They ran at her, putting all her weight behind their throws, and both spears dug into her face, sending her body recoiling. She tried to get to her feet and run, and the pain was excruciating, but she had to get out. She turned to run, and two other creatures were standing near the steps. They held a tightly stretched twine in the way, and she tangled her feet and fell helplessly down the stairs, crashing hard to the landing. As the light faded away and the distant screams intensified, she managed to see several more of these spiked creatures smiling as they walked towards the wall and into the ivy. They assured that this was going to be the last trip to Fort Delaware.
Okay, so I have thoughts. I have thoughts. But I have to tell you, the very first thing that I have to tell you is that you used the word grimaced, and all I could think about was the grimace milkshake at McDonald's.
No.
I know, I'm just hungry. And I had to tell you because I've been sitting here laughing at myself like, you fucking asshole, listen to the story.
Wow.
My second thought, actually pertaining to the story and not me being hungry, I don't want any of it. Absolutely not. First of all, you know how I feel about gnomes.
Well,
You know how I feel about gnomes. Disrespected.
well, you are not in luck because we live in Pukwudgie territory, and that's what this is.
Oh, I knew it. I was right.
So you know what a Pukwudgie is.
Yeah, so I'm like, this sounds really familiar, and part of it, and I think we've briefly touched on this before, is that they made it into a popular culture thing that I'll let you talk about because it's your story.
Mm-hmm.
But we briefly discussed it before, and I was like, ooh, I think I know where we're going with this. And I was right, but I know, like, really nothing about them other than that. So go on. Traumatize me some more.
So the thing that you're talking about is they are a house mascot in the Harry Potter
Yeah.
series.
More specifically,
The American
in
houses.
cool.
So,
Yes, which
uh,
you could see in Fantastic Beasts.
yes. Side note, the whole like we know the horrific nature that is J.K. Rowling now that she's a horrible person. Apparently, all of the houses are pulled from Native American lore and not given any credit about where these
Because why
houses came
would
from.
she?
Yeah.
Because why would she?
Yeah, because she's a horrible person. But anyway,
Fucking deplorable swamp creature. Go ahead.
but these are the Pukwudgie. These are kind of like human-like creatures. They think like Pikmin, think like weird like gnome-like creatures. They can be as tall as 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet tall, but they're kind of gnomes. But they're Native American culture from the Wampanoag tribes.
Do not compare Pikmin to gnomes.
I mean, they kind of are.
Don't do it. Don't ruin it for me. Do not ruin this for me.
Wait, the Pikmin is like puck men, like they're Pukwudgies.
Okay, those can be similar things without you having to bring it back to gnomes. They don't have to be gnome-like. Don't do that to me.
They're kind of gnome-like, but there's lore scattered about the entire Northeast. These stretch from Massachusetts into Virginia, because the Wampanoag was a confederation of Native American tribes. So it's not like one specific tribe; it's a confederation of tribes. The Wampanoag are the people that we took land from at Plymouth Rock. They're the first Native Americans that we were introduced to in both Jamestown and Plymouth Rock. They're both the Confederation, both part of the Wampanoag Confederation, but different individual tribes.
That is so cool. I never knew that.
Interestingly enough, this doesn't really have anything to do with the Pukwudgie, but the reason that we could even settle Plymouth Rock is because a decade prior to this, the Wampanoag would have been too many. There would have been too many people there, and there was no chance in the world that we would ever been able to settle Plymouth Rock. But there was an outbreak of Wells disease and I think it's leprosy or leprotosis that wiped out like a quarter of their population before we got there. And had that not happened, there would have been too many people in Plymouth Rock, in Massachusetts, to allow us to get there. So weird.
I thought you were going to talk about something else. And
no, not what we did. Not what we did to them. No, this happened.
Oh no, no! You just gave me another idea for a story, so now I can't tell you what it is. But
Oh, okay.
You'll know when you hear it.
But The Pukwudgie have the ability to shapeshift. They most commonly, though, look like a creature that looks like a porcupine on his back, and it's kind of a half troll, half human that walks upright. They
Leave it
have.
as that and don't compare it to gnomes.
But that's what a gnome is.
No.
They're
Trolls
just
and
not.
gnomes are not the same thing.
I mean, they're similar though.
They can be similar without being the same.
They lure
That
people
does
to.
explain why I did not like troll dolls in the 90s and early 2000s, though.
They're creepy. They lure
I
people
also
to
didn't
their
like
death.
Furbies.
No.
I didn't mean. Okay, I'm sorry to sidebar. I don't like Furbies. I still don't trust them, and they're
No.
bringing them back.
No. That scourge needs to die, and
Correct.
they never need to come back. I don't want
Correct.
Furbies now because in 1990s when they first came out, they were already creepy and knew too much. I don't want current AI technology to go into a Furby because
I'm
that's
like, they're gonna
too
bring
much.
Furbies out now, and they're gonna be like AI Furbies, and they're gonna learn too much, and like this is just
This is how Skynet happens. We're killed by
yes.
Furbies. The T1000s are actually just upgraded Furbies. This is how we die. We die from
That's what
Furbies.
I'm saying. I didn't mean to sidebar it to that, but I said troll dolls in the 90s, and I also talked about the Grimace Shake at McDonald's, which makes me think of like super cool 90s Halloween McDonald's kids meal toys. And
The little pails.
yeah,
Little,
it is
little...
really funny how recording this podcast at a time when I'm hungry can derail into this.
But the Pukwudgie are not nice people. They lure people to their deaths. They use magic. They launch poison arrows, and they can create fire. They can also shapeshift into other animals as large as cougars, and
These
obviously
things sound
attack
like
you.
all powerful. Like how
Yes.
is there a way to stop them?
No, you just have to avoid them.
Great.
They have been known to kidnap people, push them off cliffs, attack their victims with short knives and spears, and use sand to blind their victims.
Get sand. Anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, pocket sand.
Sorry.
So they
My
were.
ADHD is ADHD.
I can see it. According to the Wampanoag folklore, they were originally helpful spirits and helpful creatures, but they fell out of favor with the Wampanoag as the religion became more of a devotion and affection to a deity named Mashop. And once that happened, they got jealous and they were exiled to different parts of North America, and that's when they had their revenge and have been hostile to humans, and according to the lore, took the revenge by killing Mashop's 5 sons.
That they're just asking for trouble.
Yes, but they are just really very creepy looking things, and
You don't say.
some of the lore is Delaware specific, and I don't know why it's Delaware specific, but as far as Delaware and up to like Prince Edward Island in Canada. So like
Oh, wow.
yeah, so like it's kind of thing, and that's why it was just like, oh, they're found in Delaware and Prince Island Edward. I'm like, why those two very specific places? So I was just like, look, we'll just put them on Fort Delaware, which is in between Delaware and New Jersey. It was a Civil War installation, and I've actually been there. It's a neat place. They're like ghost hunters have all been there because it's supposedly a very haunted place. Also,
Yeah, I mean, choosing to put your story there was really smart at throwing me off, even though like we had briefly discussed that you were eventually going to do this.
yeah, because it was just like, is this going to be ghost stories? Is this like Civil War ghost era kind of stuff? No,
Yeah,
Pukwudgie.
you really threw me off.
Pukwudgie.
You did good. You threw me off.
Yeah. So basically, I had this story as like she crushed something that was sentimental to them, and they just tormented them until they led her to her death, and she fell down the stairs and died. Because like those are like cement, like stone steps. Like no, you're not gonna fall down those steps and be fine afterwards.
No, you're
Like,
dead.
have you ever been to Fort Delaware?
No, I'm not.
So Fort Delaware is a massive, like, it is a big fort, and it is covered. You can't get to it, but you have to get to it by ferry for one. Like, there are no roads to get to Fort Delaware. You must take a ferry in there. And the entire fort is secured by a moat. And then marshes and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually very hard. Like, if soldiers ever try to get to Fort Delaware, it would not be an easy trek to get there because of the marshlands that are surrounded by that surround Fort Delaware. Like, it's just not. It's a very strategic place to be able to defend, and like nobody's going to try to go to it. It had pop-up cannons and interesting mounts there, where the cannons were like they were below the parapet, and then once they're loaded, the action of like moving them up set the flintlock, and that would like fire them, and then they would drop back down below the parapet. So it would be very hard for you to like destroy cannons because like you basically have to fire into reinforced brick walls and all that kind of stuff. So it was actually a very, very fortified area that never got any real action because it's in Delaware. The fighting was never that high or never that far north. But I thought it was a really nice place to put the Pukwudgie because it's a relatively well isolated area. So the idea of these things not being bothered too terribly much felt right. Because like if it was something where they were constantly around, you would just be dangerous to deal with.
I mean, yeah.
But these things are creepy. Like I said, they have been known to shapeshift to so many different things. And it was just fun. It was fun because it was such a weird and interesting character. They're kind of fearsome looking because of the quills on their backs.
Mm-hmm.
They can look, like I said, their ideal look is kind of like a half shapeshift, where they look half human and half porcupine.
Worse. That is so much worse. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. I want no part of that.
If you see a Pukwudgie, you should leave it alone because if you annoy it or irritate it, that's where you get some of these are similar to like gremlins. It's like
but like, how do I know I'm seeing one? How do I know?
I mean,
like I know they have like this is the most common form, but like these things can shapeshift.
True, very true. They also even have mental powers from Doctor Who, where they can literally just make you forget that you saw them if they're being kind. Basically, it's just like, no, you didn't see us, go about your business. Or if they have a bug up their ass, they can kill you.
I don't like any of this.
If you annoy Pukwudgie, they could kidnap your children. They could push you off a cliff. They have short knives and spears, and that's why that's why Leo was attacked by little short spears. Or they can whisper in your ear mentally and persuade you to kill yourself. These are not fun. They appear like elves. They look like elves, and that they have large ears, but they also have like canine teeth. They look like they have a longer snout. So they look a little bit more like a mix between like a troll and a gremlin.
Okay.
They have been sighted near rivers. They have been attributed to supernatural events that have caused people to go crazy. There is lore that actually states that like Pukwudgie were the ones that did enough mental instability to cause Lizzie Borden to kill people.
I've never heard this in my life.
Yes, it's so weird. Yeah, it's so weird. Like there are stories about that where like that kind of happened. There's been
I've heard some wild theories about that.
Yes.
That whole situation, but I've never heard that one.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, okay, well, these things are clearly unstoppable killing machines. So maybe.
Mm. So yeah, you just don't know what they might have been. Like you don't. There's so many different things that go into Pukwudgie lore that you just don't quite know. Like you don't. It's like, was this Pukwudgie? Was it a real thing? Was it this? Why am I feeling sad and want to kill myself? Is it Pukwudgie? Did I get like? There's so many. It's such a weird thing, and it is one of the oldest mythical creatures in North America, because it's originated from the Wampanoag, the Mohican, and Algonquin Indians. and it is believed that they dwelled in the woods and marshes in the eastern seaboard. So basically, mid-Atlantic to northeast.
Just making me want to move. Like, I'm terrified.
Depending on the tribe, the severity of the infraction against the Pugwudgie are different. So, for example, like the Great Lakes tribe believe that they're mischievous, but they're relatively harmless. The Northeast Algonquin tribes believe that they will become violent if disrespected or if they're left alone. Apparently, there have been significant enough sightings in the woods of Massachusetts that they actually have Pukwudgie crossing signs near certain state parks. So it's
Wow.
like warning deer crossing, warning turtle crossings, but in Massachusetts, warning Pukwudgie crossings.
Yikes. I mean, thanks for the warning. I appreciate that. But, like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't
There,
like that this exists. I feel very unsafe.
yeah, it. There's a woman claimed that she came across a Pukwudgie while walking her dog. Even though she left it alone, it still decided to have a bug up her ass and would commonly appear in her windows and wake her up until she moved.
I would also move. It's their house now.
Despite their really creepy look to them, apparently they have a very sweet and floral scent. So it's not even like you there's literally no warning about like stumbling onto it. It's like, oh wow, everything smells quite nice. Oh god, Pukwudgie. Um
Nothing about this makes me feel safe.
yeah.
I'm
Um
so distressed. I'm so distressed right now. This is a thing. And you compared them to the Pikmin, and Pikmin 4 has only been out for like a little while, and now I'm like, can I even enjoy this?
I have ruined Pikmin for you.
And also, like, I'm just, like, Furbies are making a resurgence, and these things exist, and
Um
stop the world, I want to get off.
they have appeared in other things other than J.K. Rowling's. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow mentions Pukwudgies in his The Song of Hiawatha, and of course, like I said, Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling is the school of Ilvermorny, which is the American school. So these things are
They're
gnarly
this
looking.
mischievous and devious and threatening, and she wanted to mess with that and put them in the Harry Potter universe
Mm-hmm.
and not credit the Native Americans.
Well,
Target
that
her, leave us alone.
yeah, I mean that kind of goes with her though. Like that makes sense.
Well, I mean, freaking Stephanie Meyer did the same thing.
I want to find something so bad so that way I can go write something so that way we can rant about how bad that was because I just watched this with Alyssa and the anger that I had for this movie talking about like oh man some of this lore sounds really cool because it all looks kind of like it could have been a thing and I was just like man did this really happen like is there like actual lore no it's not.
She made it up to
Yeah.
make money off of it
So she
and
took
completely ripped off an actual tribe and their
yeah,
actual
she
legend.
basically took European legends and inserted it into Native American culture to make it
Legitimate, real Native American culture that she profited off of and shared none of that.
mm-hmm. I sent you a picture of a Pukwudgie.
Oh, jeez. I don't know that I want to look at this. Do you know all of that? All of this S. Meyer Twilight BS came to us because of the terrorists.
Because of what?
The terrorists. And okay, first of all, none of that. That is a cursed image. Absolutely not.
Okay,
That's a whole
but
lot of fuck that.
what the terrorists?
Backtracking to what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you the streamlined version. This is the September 11th, 2001 to 50 Shades of Grey pipeline. Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
So, as we all know, the unfortunate tragedy, and I don't even have the words for the profound, you know, um, grief that comes with the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers in New York. Gerard Way was on a ferry into New York when this happened, and this national tragedy resonated with him so strongly that he and his brother and some friends created My Chemical Romance. The music of My Chemical Romance inspired Stephanie Meyer to write Twilight. E.L. James, who created 50 Shades of Grey, created 50 Shades of Grey because she read Twilight and was like, this is so good, I want to make a fan fiction of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the pipeline. Because 50 Shades of Grey started out as Twilight fan fiction.
Yep.
And that is the pipeline. Could I tell you all of the state capitals? No, but I could tell you that information.
I was just say another picture of the Pukwudgie, and this is why it looks a little bit closer to Pikmin.
No.
I mean, he
Just
looks
no.
a little bit less violent looking than the first one that I sent you.
Just no. Just no.
But yes.
I
So
I see the parallel. I see what you're saying. I want nothing to do with that. I want no part of that.
yeah, these are creepy looking creatures. They're not fun. They're not fun at all.
The one, I'm like, does it even have a face? Like the first one that you sent me, but I'm not about to click on it and enlarge it to see if it does.
Oh, it does.
I don't want to look at it.
Oh, it
I don't
does.
want-
It does.
I don't want none of
There's a
that.
face there. You don't want to see it.
I don't want none of that.
Yeah, you don't want to see it.
No.
But I like this one. I like this one because like there's no influences of other cultures or anything like that. This is a Native American thing that was here before we got here. Like they started out as like capricious, so like there are parallels between them and like leprechauns.
I can see that.
But there is no shared culture to do that. They just happen to have two things, and this is where like the whole deal with Fae and why it feels believable, because you have these cultures that have never interacted ever, that have hundreds and sometimes thousands of years of lore about these creatures that are very similar to each other. So like the fact that the Wampanoag and Irish people have very similarities between leprechauns and Pukwudgie, it's very interesting that like, do these things really exist? Because there's no way that like someone from the Wampanoag tribe or someone from Ireland met 500 years ago and started this. Like a lot of these things are very interesting, and one of the things I do love about this show is that you get to learn so many different things, and you get to see that like while some of these are very interesting in the way that they weave themselves into other cultures, the fact that you still have these standalone things that are still very similar but have absolutely no tie to exists. So like the fact that like these Pukwudgies are similar to gremlins or leprechauns, but have absolutely no influence from those to be part of that culture from the European world is very interesting. Like that I find fascinating, that like this stuff, while it mirrors some of the things that we know from like European cultures, is completely its own thing. It was never touched by European culture prior to its existence.
Which is wild to think about because like they had no interaction. They had nothing to go off of. Like, and these similar things just happen. Like for all we know, especially since Pukwudgies are like shapeshifters, they are the same thing, but they just take a different form in Ireland, you know? Like we don't know. And we may never know. And that's pretty cool to think about.
But again, the reason why they turned on us is because the Wampanoag started to have a larger relationship with Mashap, and Mashap apparently is a giant. So he is a giant kind deity. So the diminutive Pukwudgie took umbrage with the fact that like Mashap was a giant. So it was just like it became a Napoleon complex where it was just like, oh, you want to hang with the big people? Well, we'll show you how dangerous the small things are in your life. And according to the stories, they killed Mashap's kids. Like the other 5 giants, they were able to topple and murder them. And then some variations even suggest that they murdered Mashap himself. And this is why it coincides with the legends that the giants disappeared from the Wampanoag folklore. So there's there's
To do with us just because we're taller than them? We're not giants. We're different. Don't
yeah.
target us.
So the lore is that they murdered the giants. These little things murdered giants out of existence. Like that's
Oh my
how
god.
dangerous these things can be.
Oh my god.
And then
Don't.
some of the more frightening rumors and things show that they have power over the spirits of the people that they killed, so they can actually torment you into the afterlife.
Stop the world. I want to get off.
Mm-hmm.
No. Please no. If I didn't have to worry about karma getting me for it, like that would be the thing that I wish on people I don't like.
Yeah, these things are so creepy looking, but it was fun. It was definitely fun reading and writing about them, because
That's exactly what I'm gonna be thinking of when I look at somebody and I say, "Have the day you deserve."
you
These
hope
guys.
the Pugwitchy come after you.
I'm not summoning them anywhere near me. I'm just saying if I ever say "Have the day you deserve" to somebody, it's usually because it's my polite way of saying I think you're an asshole.
Mm-hmm. So now you can think it. I hope a Pugwitchy finds you.
Which is the subtext of me saying "Have the day you deserve."
Mm-hmm.
So don't ever make me say that to you.
I would have. I'd be like, are you okay? Did I do something to piss you off? Because like, why would you say that to me?
I don't think I'd ever say that to you. That was more
Yeah,
of
I would hope.
more of, that was more of a
I,
rhetorical
yeah, I would
statement.
hope that I would not have upset you that much to say, have the day you deserve.
No, I don't think you could ever do that.
But that is the Pukwudgie. So like you know now that if you happen to find a spiky looking porcupine creature in the northeast, and we don't have
Nope, the
porcupine
fuck out of there.
type creatures, leave it alone. Kind of
Nope, the fuck out of there.
like poison ivy. Leaves a 3, let it be.
I don't
If you
I don't have a good rhyme for this.
if you see a thing that's prickly, leave it alone so it's not sticky. I don't know. Like, I just
You're vamp. If we vamp long enough, we might get it.
we could find it. We could find a thing to be like, if you mess with the thorns, you get the horns. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, if you don't live in the Northeast, this isn't going to be an issue for you. But if you live in the Northeast now, at least now you have another completely horrible thing to know that could kill you in your sleep if you piss something off that you didn't even know was there.
A new fear.
A new fear, Pukwudgies,
So be kind,
or they will murder you.
or else. Be kind or else.
And remember, last one out douses the fire. If you heard something, no, you didn't. If you're here with us next time, it means you made it through the morning.